We then reattached the batteries to the original motor. The motor ran 2 minutes and 28 seconds before the batteries died. That is twice as long as the first time on batteries that are not supposed to recharge. The magnet that used to rotate at about 30 revolutions per minute now spins at over 200 revolutions per minute. That means more energy and more accurate testing. Testing like that recently conducted by engineers from Wisconsin, Minnesota, California, and Louisiana. One representative of Rayovac Batteries watched the testing and then stated,
"It would appear that there's more energy coming out than the batteries are delivering."
I think it'll change the general way that most of atomic physics is viewed, and perhaps much, much more than that.
The Mississippi inventor who claims he has a device that will solve the world's energy problems came to New Orleans today. Many felt that the demonstration of his device would attract only a few. Those that believed that were wrong. For years, Joseph Newman has fought a lonely fight over a bizarre-looking energy device that he claims will change the world. Today, the machine looks a little different, and the fight continues, but he is no longer alone. This was the scene at the New Orleans Hilton Hotel today. Over 1,000 people crammed into a ballroom to hear Newman, and more than 1,000 more waiting outside. At the podium was the usual complement of scientists who have supported Newman for the past 2 years, but there are also some new faces. Actor Eddie Albert, who hopes to draw President Reagan's attention to Newman's fight, and Canadian businessmen who have plans for the Newman device.
We hope that in the near future we can make some arrangement with Mr. Newman to have this machine production in Canada to benefit the people up there.
Inventor Joe Newman of Lucedale, Mississippi claims that scaled up, his machine will replace all conventional fuel sources. Today,
this thing that he calls a gyroscopic particle, in essence, becomes the new atom. This prototype, from the testing we've recently done, can be scaled up with very little additional work to produce enough power to at least run as an auxiliary power plant in a home.
It's going to be the Industrial Revolution all over again, except greatly accelerated. Every aspect of science will be touched by the technology that I teach. It'll open many doors.
Yeah, that was pretty good, wasn't it? Very interesting. Why don't we show a phone number from where people can call and actually talk to Joseph and get to find out how they can help out in making sure that this happens. I also looked in your book here. I saw that you were offered an enormous amount of money for this patent. Not the patent, but for the invention.
Yes.
Would you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I've had two big great offers. Once I had a conference call in the early 80s, and people offered me open-ended checks. Said, "Miss Newman, we checked you out. We know you're dedicated. You name your price, and we'll match it." And I said, "No, thank you. It's not for sale." I said, "You tell me that you'll get behind it, make a quality product, stand behind it, put out a reasonable price. I'll be glad to work a license agreement." The guy said, "Let us think about it." And after that, all kind of heck started breaking out against me. But then, within a year of that time, a gentleman from Sacramento brought some people down from Canada, and they had a cashier's check for $214 million. And they were very much saying that they were going to get behind this technology, that they had a federal government thing in Canada at the time. The government would be backing it, and they wanted to buy the rights for Canada. And I read the contract, and it was a good contract, but I wanted three things added to it. And it's just good business. I said, I want you to put on there, you're going to make a quality product, stand behind it, put it at a reasonable price. And the guy got extremely uppity with me. "Oh, no, Joe, if we give you that kind of money, we don't owe you nothing." You know, it's talking down to me. And it put a rage in me. And I told the man in no uncertain terms to get off my property. In fact, the people that he had brought sued the man in Sacramento because he had told them that he could almost guarantee them that I would accept their offer. And it was interesting to me that afterwards he wrote a letter in my behalf, you know, that I had shown to you, that I had turned down that $214 million.
Yeah, I see that letter in there.
Yeah, and you can see it in there, and it's talking about $214 million, $214 million, and he says why I did, that I was worried that these people would sit on it because the fact they wouldn't put on there, they was going to make a quality product, stand behind it, and put it at a reasonable price. I could draw no other conclusion. And most people wonder, why would you turn it down? It's because I know the magnitude of what this will do for humanity.
Well, you know, it's very obvious that for the first of all, they were going to shelf it. You can be sure of that.
Yes.
And for the second, it's very obvious also that they wouldn't pay you $218 million unless they knew it worked.
No, they wouldn't. And I think what they had thought they could do is get me to bite for a little bit. You know, I sell one country. Then they get me to sell another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And they just don't understand when somebody is not interested in funds, but they have this great desire to happen, do something good for humanity. And that's why that they have not been able to work anything with me.
That's the wrong kind of people to deal with. I saw also in there is something here that resembles an anti-gravity device.
Oh, yes, it is. And Dr. Hastings, who had made a comment before I did this to an attorney in Washington, he didn't think I'd ever be able to do this on the Earth. He thought I could do it in outer space. 2 weeks later, he was at this demonstration of a space device. And I took a helium balloon, I wrapped it with fine wire, I hooked it to a battery pack. I could make it rise. If I changed the polarity of the battery, it turned around 180 degrees. I could pulsate it and make this just hover. Now, Dr. Hastings weighed this on a scale. Then he stated, somewhere right around in here, that if this device was 1,000 feet in diameter and something like 400 feet thick, it'd lift a 400-ton payload. Now, that makes space travel become a reality. That's the magnitude of this technology. It will carry us into outer space. And another thing I have done is that I know you can exceed the speed of light. And I'll tell the young people how you can do this very simply, is that if you create a tremendous electromagnetic field, now Einstein is right, that the gyroscopic particles, as you hit them, and they did the same thing in the cyclotrons, and they were amazed by it. When they took an electron, got close to the speed of light, all of a sudden, they had so many particles formed, they used the technology. It was like clowns pouring out of an automobile. They didn't know where this came from. Now, it's very obvious where it came from. They use these phenomenal electromagnets that accelerate this electron. Yet they say that this phenomenal electromagnetic field has nothing to do with the test. In no way can it enter into it. And I see that's totally unthinking, because what happens is, it's just like Einstein said, is you get close to the speed of light, as this gyroscopic particle is moving very, very slow, the electron is moving slow, the gyroscopic particle is going at the speed of light, and the electron is massive, it goes right through there without touching anything. Now, as it gets close to the speed of light, then all the gyroscopic particles making up the electron, then they hit these other gyroscopic particles. This is going at the speed of light, this is going at the speed of light, they're going to collide. And the denser the magnetic field is, the more matter is going to be formed. Because what happens is when that gyroscopic particle hits the gyroscopic particles an electron, these move at right angles, and they hit other particles, they start gyrating around each other, and they start forming mass. And I'm certain that's what occurs. That's the same thing would occur as you travel in outer space, getting close to the speed of light, because the gyroscopic particles make up the electromagnetic field that prevail our galaxy. But the way you beat it is simple. Einstein was correct, but he admitted he was not mechanical, very mechanical. The way you beat it is simple. You create a tremendous electromagnetic field. You get a pointed electromagnetic field. Now, what will happen is these gyroscopic particles come in, they will glaze off of it exactly as that bullet glazed off that water. And as a result of it, the mass will not come infinite. So what will happen is your speed will get faster and faster and faster as you go toward another solar system or another galaxy, because you got the inverse square law. As you get closer and closer, you're accelerating. That's where Newtonian mechanics come into effect. Until you get some outside force to act upon that, it will continuously accelerate. You can exceed the speed of light.
Well, the mathematical formulas for travel faster than the speed of light has been on the books for some time, actually.
Yeah, and see, I hadn't even heard that fact, but see, I'm certain that you can from a mechanical aspect of it, is if they look at what they see in a cyclotron already, they look back and listen to what I'm saying, they can see that as they get close to the speed of light with that electron, these gyroscopic particles are going to hit every other gyroscopic particle in that electron. These particles are going to move at right angles with that force. Then they fly in the face of other gyroscopic particles, just like one car. If you see a wreck, it'll get into traffic and hit 6 other cars and cause a random, that's the same thing. Then they start gyrating around each other. And what's so amazing to me is that the energy in a gyroscopic particle moves constantly. Now, totally opposite of what we see, like in this table and the floors, we see solid objects. But the entire universe is in motion. The basic building block of all matter is motion. And the gyroscopic particle, which is interesting to me, is that if you go one way, and this is what I saw, and I'll make a statement in here, I sit in awe upon the realization of this ingenious mechanism that is so simple it befuddles the mind. Because all matter is made up of one particle, not two. Now, they say it's made up of negative and positive. That is not correct. Only to us, to the observer, does it appear that way. Let's say you and I are on the gyroscope. Just think about it. Now, we're moving by and some giant's watching us, and he pushes down on the gyroscope that we're on. And let's say we come toward him. He says that's positive. We go around, turn around, come back. Now he pushes down, and we go away from him. He calls it negative. Now, you and I are saying no. We're still the same energy. Now, he would argue that it's a negative and positive effect. And that's when I realized that the entire universe is made up of one gyroscopic particle. And I said I stood in awe upon the realization of this ingenious mechanism that's so simple it befuddles the mind. That's the magnitude of what this technology is. The entire universe consists of this one gyroscopic particle. You and I and every element within the universe. And that's the way that we have to travel in the universe, is through electromagnetic energy. And that's the magnitude of what this is, and that's the magnitude of what this will do for the human race. And at some point, if I can, I'd like to read 2 pages that I wrote to the young people.
Well, who am I to argue? I mean, you have created a machine here that actually does something that for the last 100 years has been told to us that it's impossible to do. And I would like you to read that, but let's first, let me ask you one thing now.
Sure.
You have been at this for a while.
Yes, I have.
And I know that you had a fight with the Patent Bureau. And we got time here for just another 2 minutes before you can start reading here.
Okay.
That fight with the Patent Bureau has been kind of lengthy, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And it caused Congressman Livingston, who was head of the Republican study committee, to write a 5-page report, which I put in this book, saying that Congress should act because the U.S. Patent Office had not followed the format of the patent law, had violated my civil rights and my American rights, as well as a judge, Thomas Penfield Jackson, which he named, and that Congress should act to see that this patent issue so that people would get behind it and it would be produced because of the tremendous magnitude it would have upon the people of this nation and the world. Now, that's by Bob Livingston, who was the head of the Republican Study Committee at the time. He himself was damning the U.S. Patent Office and the federal court with Thomas Penfield Jackson. Now, people should think about that, because what I've always said is that this conspiracy is not against Joseph Newman. It's against you, the people.
Mankind.
Yeah, and mankind, and that's why I want mankind to stand up behind me, because I fight for them, and together we will win. And history shows that we will win. And I'm hopeful if I can get the young people to see this, because it's their future. It's like Max Planck said. It's a sad commentary for the human race, but it's true. And the advancement of new technology is not done by the old, they die away. It's the young who grew up familiar with it that bring it forward. And so I'm depending on what Plato had written about, was the vigor of the young people. They always want to change the status quo. We're coming up into the new millennium. This is the time to bring this technology forward. It's their future. It's their generation. We've had ours. It's theirs. And that's why I'm hoping that I can get the students here at the college to get behind this. Then they can spread it across to every other college. The world will be woken up to it. And it'll go forward. And once it comes out, you watch. The status quo people will then join in behind it. History shows that. And then what happens? The people themselves benefit.
We have something here that you wanted to read that will be more or less directed towards the young people, right?
Yes, it is. And I wrote this in 1984. And if you have any children, even if they're asleep, I wish you'd wake them up. And the reason I want this is simple. I wrote this to them. I believe in what Max Planck said. This is their future, and I want them to believe in themselves. And if you wake them up and ask them to listen to what I read to them, you'll know that I speak from my heart to them. And with that, let me just get started.
Go ahead.
It's titled The Pursuit of Truth. As I conclude the final chapter, I feel a burden lifted from my shoulders. In slightly more than 2 months, I will be 49 years old. For nearly 50 years, I have deeply cared for humanity and strived to improve the quality of life upon the planet. For over 20 years, I have fought for you, the people, who are now alive and who are yet to be born. Many of my closest friends have sincerely urged me to include only topics relating to pure science in my book rather than these other numerous subjects. My friends are concerned that you, the people, would dismiss all of my work if you become offended by any subject that I have discussed. I told my friends I fully recognize this possibility, and yet it does not deter me in any way. The reason is simple. I'm not promoting Joseph Newman. I'm promoting you, the people, and urging you to recognize the sleeping lion that lies within you. I urge you to stir yourselves, awaken, and begin to question, think, and act to produce truth, which equals goodness. I believe in you, the people, more than you believe in yourselves. We've been given a most precious gift, a powerful mind capable of questioning, reasoning, thinking, creating, loving, being merciful, acting, seeking, and producing absolute truth, which equals goodness. So teach your young children and stimulate their curiosity. This will do more toward producing a meaningful, happy life for your children than all the dogma you receive by a non-educational process of memorization. I've been discussing the happiness, the well-being, and the future of our children and of children yet to be born. To achieve and ensure these desirable goals, I warmly recommend that a single language be developed and taught on a worldwide basis to supplement conventional languages. This new single language must be independent of any other known language in the world. Such a new single language must be based on consistent logic, similar to mathematics, rather than memorization and imprecision. Present languages are deficient in strict logic and only serve to interfere with the creative processes one enjoys when writing one's work. I write from experience. This new single language can be achieved if we question, think, create, and act. The young children throughout the world who are taught such a new single language will automatically feel closer and less suspicious of the children of other countries. When such children become adults, they will be more eager to talk, share, solve, care,